All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. It's Christine Jewell, and today I have a guest on the show with me. I am here with Brent Polhman. Brent is the president and CEO of Midwest Laboratories. He is a husband, a father, a Christ-centered leader, author of the book Leaders Look Within. I'm sure you're a lot of other amazing things that you can tell us here in a moment, but I love this book and the subtitle, how being the CEO of yourself is essential to leading others. So, welcome, Brent. I'm excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you, Christine. I've been looking forward to this for some time now.
Oh, so good. So good. Well, I got to say, the reason that, I'm very intentional also about who I bring on the show and who I connect with. I'm always looking for who are those men and women that I deeply respect and just sort of watching from the background, right? So there was certain things that I really admired and respected about you that I'm going to get into later that really, said, I got to talk to this guy. And I love the way you show up, publicly, but also like the things that you talk about. So I would love to just start with right out the gate. Like, talk to me about even that concept, or talk to me about being the CEO of yourself before you can be the CEO of your company and everything else.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. I learned probably only in the last 5 years that you really have to own yourself. If you're gonna, you have to like yourself. You have to have the best self if you're gonna lead others. If you don't like yourself, how can you even be in the same room as the other people? And so you must do those things. We'll probably get into it about self care, but I used to think that was selfish, and I had so many different ideas about that. But people want to be around people again who have a high awareness and are there with empathy and care and basically coaching people up. I've learned that the best leaders coach people up, and that's really the heart of this book.
Yes. The best leaders coach people up. They don't create more followers, right? They create more leaders. So I love that. Okay, so we are definitely going to get to the self care bit because it sounds so fluffy and hairy fairy and all this stuff. But before we go there, let's just give the listeners some context because you're running a pretty significant organization. You have a lot of people, like teams and things. So tell us a little bit about Brent beyond just the little intro that I gave you.
Sure. So sure, Midwest Laboratories, it's a full analytical laboratory. We're in a lot of verticals, basically three, if you really boil it down to human health, animal health, agriculture, and environmental together.
Mm,
And those three encompass a wide range of clients, testing, and it has really created the perfect environment from a laboratory testing side. We pretty much, as I tell people, we do everything except blood. That's pretty much what
mm.
our focus is. Farm to fork, food safety. I mean, there's so many tests and so many analysis that you can do with that. And no, I'm very proud of the fact the company has been around almost 50 years. We're getting pretty close to that. And what my father started, again, I want to build on his legacy. And no, we have amazing people here. And no, it's a great place, again, to serve our clients and to take care of our employees. And no, I really enjoy coming to work every single day.
I love that. And you told me before we started this recording that you have over 300 employees, right?
Yes, yes.
Like that's not small feat there.
No, no. In fact, before in 2019, we had 120. So this has been rapid growth in the um, few years, last 3 years. So we are
Wow.
growing at the seams. Yeah, a lot.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're definitely going to be tapping into that too. So lots of growth. I know you just got back from Italy too. So to share that little piece of information, not little piece, huge piece of information, because I'm celebrating with you just because I love
Oh,
everything about it. But
no, we were there for my son, who is in a major seminary in his last year, and he became a deacon in the Catholic Church there at St. Peter's in Rome, on the right over the tomb of St. Peter. And it was just an amazing experience for our family to be there, to just be there with all the history and our family. It's a once in a lifetime trip.
yeah,
Just a once in a lifetime trip.
yeah. And I like that you take trips. You talk about that in your book and you get away, right? You get away from the grind. We're going to talk about that. Okay, so I'm going to jump in because here's the thing. I recently did a masterclass called Prosper, the characteristics of kingdom leaders who are multiplying and prospering in a world that is contracting. And so I really see you as one of those types of leaders because, and you just explained like you have been multiplying in a season. Your business has been growing, and here we are in a time and space where a lot of people are screaming gloom and doom. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of negativity, there's just a lot of contraction, people becoming ruled by fear. And I'm looking and I'm seeking, who are these people, who are these leaders that are multiplying their businesses are being blessed and they're growing, their health is being blessed and their and vitality is increasing, their relationships are multiplying when everyone else is screaming panic, running for cover, contracting. So I want to say that that was one of the key things, right? So I would love to even, and then I want to share the three things that I really was attracted to, and I want you to speak to those three things. But talk to me in your eyes like what it means to really be a multiplier from the heavenly perspective or a kingdom perspective,
Sure.
especially in a world that is like run by the total opposite of everything that.
No, I ask myself this, I guess, and it is in the book, but when my mom, everyone goes through pains, and when my mom died of cancer, I'll never forget the time. I just said, and she was a lady of prayer. She had hundreds of prayer journals that my sister and I are now just going through and kind of reading for the first time.
Mm,
But I said at that time, I said, I want to be more intentional about my faith. I had no idea what I was even saying. I had no idea but I said that I will never forget as a prayer when I started kind of doing a morning routine of walking and running in the mornings. And I just thought, I don't know what this is. What does it mean to be more intentional about my faith? And that's
mhm,
when I think it started with the journey of going through and just really grasping, what does the scripture say? What does the word of God say? What does it say about relationships with others? And that really started the huge transformation in my life, was
mhm,
that being intentional. And I really had to write it down. I'm a journal person. I have to write things down. And I really just started to write those things down. And that's, when you do that, such a power in that. We can talk more about that later, but there's such a power in that. So I think that was my first part, was just the intentionality. There has to be an intentionality there in order to
yeah.
change.
And I love what you said, that I actually wrote that at the beginning of the book. I always take notes. I know I'm the person that writes in those first pages of the books, but I wrote at the top there, I'm like, first the whoop, I love the whoop, but also 50 to 100 journals this man has written in, and I want to say that to all of you, as those of you that are clients of mine and those of you who listen to the podcast, where I'm always harping on this concept of journaling or writing. And I do find like successful people, grounded people, journaling is such a powerful tool. And yet I will tell you, it is one of the most, I get the most resistance around journaling and slowing down when it's like, can we just slow down? Can we pull out a piece of paper? Talk to us a little bit about the power of journaling.
Sure.
What that
Um,
has created for you, especially to the skeptic that's like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, sitting
Yeah. It
here
was
going
one
to
of the,
journal.
yeah, I know. It's one of the big things. So every day I have an intention for the day. Every day I write down what my top three items are. Um, and one item that really, I never thought about journaling, but I was shown this and use it all the time, is I look back at the previous day and I write down, what was I uncomfortable with yesterday?
I love
And
that.
so, yeah, so by doing that, I have to think about, and I also put where did I win? But that uncomfortability has been the biggest piece of my journaling, because I
Mm,
have to think back, what was I really uncomfortable with yesterday? I write it down, and then just in a matter of writing it down, it takes the power out of it, and you just say, okay, is this something that I need to prioritize? Is this something I really need to spend any more energy or time
mhm,
with?
mhm,
Or if it is, yes, how am I going to do that effectively?
mhm.
And you said it best. It slows you down, so you don't. So you become, because before I was totally reactive. If you asked me what was I uncomfortable with, I probably couldn't even tell you, because I was probably reacting to it the day before, and I couldn't even tell you that.
Yeah. It's crazy. I loved that part of your journaling piece, and I actually included it. I totally stealing it from you, and I'm adding that into my clients' things because we do, I always talked about intention and what do you really appreciate, because we appreciate increases in value and the top three things. But I love that piece about discomfort, because it really changes, it changes your relationship with being in that place of discomfort and being uncomfortable or being in the unknown. But I'm curious, because this is also something I hear this more from men than women. And I'm not gender stereotyping, but I think a lot of men maybe avoid this because it reminds them of where they're failing instead of,
Yeah.
right? So
Well,
just
we're
talk to me a
always,
little bit more about that,
yeah,
because you said it
we're
takes
always,
the power out of it. So,
yeah, because we're always taught to list our weaknesses and where do you work on your weaknesses. Being uncomfortable, I mean, it really did change those words, just saying that, even in a meeting, people can tell. If we're in a meeting and somebody says, hey, I think everyone in this room should get 20% more in their pocket, or something
mhm.
like that, I will take a deep breath. I'll go, okay. And it's, yeah, before I would have just said, oh, you guys are a bunch of, I would have just reacted
Shut it down.
terribly. Yes. But now, by even doing those things, I'll even, if I hear a comment from somebody in a meeting, I write it down because maybe it seemed really like, that's really unusual. I've never heard that from that person.
Mhm.
And it really builds your awareness because you start to
Mm.
say, you know what, something's off here. And then you go back and say, hey, you said this in the meeting. Is everything okay? And then it's amazing. This, you learn so much more. You're like, oh yeah, I see. Hey, you're yeah, you're dealing with something at home, or you're dealing with something you've had not a good day. I get it now, but before I had not no awareness. So that uncomfortability is really powerful. I say that it's really powerful. It's not
It
just a
is so
weakness,
powerful.
because weakness looks at yourself. It seems a
Yeah.
little more selfish, but uncomfortable, you're looking at the big picture. You're looking at, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this thing?
I think that is so powerful. I love that. And I love the fact that it gives you that moment. Like I call it the king's pause or the queen's
Yeah.
pause. It's like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's just sit back and observe, become an observer, more of an observer, less of a judge. The reactive person, we're just like ready to bite, ready to bark, ready to, and we're just scared or we're judging, right? So it's like fear or superiority. Like usually it's fear or pride, but it's like, okay, cool. I love that being able to observe. I love that curiosity and also the desire to seek first to understand. Like,
Hmm.
what's going on with them? Like, let me just forget about this superficial layer. And I think that's so important as we go back to how do we operate inside of this world system that is so superficial. It's so like just react with everything that's right in front of you. Like, and I mean, I talk about this often is we have to be able to look beyond what is
Hmm.
presenting at us physically, because this is how we get distracted and baited. And can I get to the heart of this person or heart of the matter? So I love that. And thank you for sharing that about
Yeah.
the uncomfortable
Absolutely.
piece. I really hope that people get that. Let it saturate your ears.
Yeah. It is. It's powerful. It is. I can tell you. And those, many times, those will be wins in the next
Yeah.
days or weeks. Many
Mm.
times. I like that. That's so cool to see that metric when that
Mhm.
happens.
Okay, so just to recap, for those of you who are listening, top three actions for the day, intention for the day, what was uncomfortable yesterday, and the things that are uncomfortable today will often be tomorrow's wins if we're willing to face them, explore them, get curious about them instead of keeping avoiding them or pretending. There's a lot of pretending.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
that stuff
there.
doesn't go away, by the way. For those of you who are pretending, that stuff does not go away. It just gets to become the bigger mountain that later you have to move, right? So I want to pivot for a second. So, a couple things that really drew me towards you. Number one, and I talked about some of these characteristics in the masterclass. So if you guys haven't listened to that, I highly encourage you to drop into the link below, check out the masterclass, and also check out the book, Leaders Look Within. But I saw a couple things for you. Number one is I saw that you really looked like someone who knew what he stood for, right? Like you talk very openly about your faith. You do the morning runs. It's one of the only LinkedIn posts that I would ever pay attention to. So, I mean, you and you like you know who you are, you know what you stand for, which is so huge. And I see this so much when I'm going into to work with CEOs, and it's like there's no clarity. There's confusion. Like their teams are confused. They don't know what this person stands for. And the next time HR drops a new thing, then they pivot. And then they pivot. And then they pivot because we're in this cancel culture. So I'm gonna unpack the three and then I want you to go with me into each one. So
Okay.
number one was like I saw you was like, this guy is not afraid to talk about what he stands for, right? He's sharing his faith in a world of cancel culture. Number two was your consistency. Like you show up every day, every day, right? And sometimes you don't feel like showing up. So I want to jump into that for a second. And then the third one was really like this valuing of your health and like really, whether it's running or whatever, it's really recognizing that your health. But I want to start with that knowing who we are and what we stand for, because we do live in a world that is so, there's a lot of cancel culture out there, and we're always being told how we should be talking and we can say this and that. How do you navigate that?
Well, I would first say you have to have a strong why. I thought I always had a why, but I really didn't. Mine wasn't very strong, and it wasn't until I really had to say what it is. It's like then I was stumbling over the words, or I would say something different every day. Every day. So now my why and my how together is I'm a person of faith who coaches people up and leads from the heart, and I have to see that every single day. And then that kind of sets me like, okay, this is who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
What actions need to take place, and then that's where the consistency and the daily routine happens. I have to have a daily routine. It drives me a little bit crazy when I go on a trip and I don't have that together. I have to
Yeah.
really work through that. It is hard for me. I didn't realize how valuable a daily routine can be, and that's really helped me do
Yeah,
that.
it's huge. But say that again. Go again, those three things that you said, because that was really valuable. I know who I am. I know what I'm here to do. What were you, how did you
Yeah, I'm
say
a
that?
person of faith
I'm a
who
person of
coaches
faith.
people up, and leads from the heart.
Beautiful. I'm a person of faith who coaches people up and leads from the heart. That sounds so wonderful, Brent. And I know that you do it. And to the other CEOs, I'm thinking of a few people right now. I can hear them chirping in my ear going, yeah, but if I say that, then I'm going to piss HR off. And yeah, but if I say that, then I'm going to piss my key client off or whatever. What do you say? Because
I
I
would
I
say,
want
yeah, no. I thought about that too. So it's part of myself bringing my A game. I want to bring my A game every single day. Now that I might have said that as my why, bringing your A game,
Mhm.
but then you have to look deeper. Why do you want to bring your A?
Why do you want to bring
What's
your A
behind
game?
the A game? But if I'm going to bring my A game, I got to be on. I mean, I better be smiling. If I walk in with a frown or like a disillusioned look, people pick that up, and I did not realize the power in that. So you want to be if you want to be a positive influence on people and you want people to respect you, you've got to I want to bring my A game every single day,
Mhm.
and that encompasses a lot of things as we'll get to those other two questions, but that's part
Mhm.
of that whole. But having a strong why, I think that's really front and center where it is. And then how do you build that? Mine's again through prayer, through activities, running, being outside. I have to do all those things. All those things fuel that piece.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I see a lot is that people come and they're like, I don't know my why. I had someone the other day say, I don't know what makes me happy. And I'm like, well, how much space do you have in your life to think about these things? Right. It's like you wake up and you're running from 5 a.m. till you hit the sheets, you're exhausted. Like, I don't think you have the potential to access the answers to those questions, which kind of brings us into the whole capacity thing or like the value that you have around health. I mean, I see those really tied. Do you agree with that? Like
Oh,
you,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
They're tied together. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Hmm. So talk to us about the value of health, because this is another one that I hear a lot. It's like, oh, I value health, but yet they haven't been, they're
Yeah.
inconsistent with the gym, they're not sleeping, they're this and that. And it really does take a lot of discipline. Yeah, it's discipline, but it's more than that. And it comes back to our why always. Like what's this for? But what was like the game changer for you to make this like a non-negotiable, like for you?
Yeah.
And I know that you're doing some cool things. Maybe you want to share some of the things that are working for you?
Yeah. No, I think it came from a verse in the Bible. Love the Lord your God with all your mind, your body, soul, and spirit. Okay, how do I do that? How do I work and put those things together? And I used to run, and then I'd used to get I'd get the ankle that would hurt, or and then I'd stop for a while, or I'd lift weights, go really super hard. I only knew one speed: go hard, go fast, work hard, or you know beat your body till it's
Hmm.
there's nothing left. Um, but then I think it was about getting smarter, and then I needed help. And then the biggest part is seeking help and finding the right help. There's all kinds of help out there, but you got to find the right person. And I needed someone to tie the pieces together. Some of it was I found a little piece here, little piece here, and you can do that, build that. But tying it all together was really huge for me. I did, and then our bodies. I think we're still learning. I do what's called dry needling and cupping. I did not know
Hmm.
my left leg had shut off. It just pretty much had shut off, and that's why it
Right.
was sore, and that's why it was stiff. So I hated running. I just couldn't even stand to run.
Mm.
But now getting all the blood flowing through it, getting it active. I didn't know my right shoulder was tied to my left ankle. That's how I mean it is.
Cross
It's all
kinetic chain, people. Cross kinetic chain.
you know this stuff, but I didn't know that. I thought this. I kept working this shoulder. I thought something's wrong with
Yeah.
it. It's tied because I turned my left ankle back in high school, and it
Hmm.
never healed right, or I just never worked it correctly.
Hmm.
But now by getting everything in motion, this went away, which is still a surprise to me. But I still work at it. And then all which vitamin do you take? Get a
Yeah.
blood test. It's really cheap, and you can
Yeah.
see what's missing in your body, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. I was missing B12. I mean, that's a pretty
Hmm.
basic vitamin, or
Hmm.
vitamin D. I mean, those are very basic,
Hmm.
but I don't think we're taught. You can't read that in a book, or I don't know. I have so many books. I used to read books, and
And it's
nothing ever
confusing,
stuck.
there's so much information, like what do you listen to and this and that. And I used to and my background is in integrative nutrition and like the training and the body. And I feel so blessed for having had those couple decades of really working with the human body, because you get to see how much the body is holding on to pain, to trauma, to tension, to stress. And that's how dis-ease manifests. It's dis-ease, uneasiness in the body that collects over
Mhm.
time, and it creates these masses or disruptions, and now we're completely misaligned. And I just, that was actually one of the reasons too why early on I kind of was just disillusioned with a lot of the church or like faith, because I would see all these people that would say that they were of faith, but then they were not honoring the vessel. I'm like, wait a second, like, right, there's a disconnect. And so I value that, because I see like this is the temple. This is like our vessel. This is, the clearer it is, the stronger this is, the more
Yeah.
that God can do in us and through us.
Absolutely. Yeah, when
Right?
you want to bring when you're that intentionality, when you want to bring your best self,
Yeah.
then you're gonna dig in and own yourself. You have to own yourself. Nobody
Yeah.
else can tell you. No book can tell you. You have to really want it yourself, and that's why I think even leadership, even the book, I give you some examples, but ultimately you have to find this stuff for yourself. No one can tell
Yes.
you how to be an effective leader. I don't think. I mean,
No.
they can give you clues, but you gotta really own it and
You got
see
to
what
own it.
you really want and live by
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I always say we got to reclaim the territory of our bodies that have been hijacked by everything out there, from distraction, social media, to our food, to alcohol, too much, and none of these things is bad. I love that verse, nothing is impermissible, or, all things are permissible, but too much of anything is not good. Right. And
No,
so it's,
no.
it's like, how's the vessel doing? And I hear that a lot. I actually sent a survey out recently of like, what do people want to have more questions to? And actually, one of the things I hear a lot is, how do I hear God when he's silent? And I'm always so interested. I'm like, people, my answer is often the same. It's like, how's your vessel doing? Is your
Mhm.
vessel clean and
Right.
quiet? Like, can you hear? Because if you have mental fog and inflammation and you're tired, like, it's really hard
It is. It is. It's absolutely hard. And
to discern.
I think being still, like as you said, just got to be still, and it's really
Mhm.
hard. It can be super hard.
Yeah,
It's super hard.
totally. So know who you are, know your why, figure that out. You got to slow down, guys. You got to honor the body. I know it seems counterintuitive. You have all these people depending on you and all these problems to put and these fires to put out, but it's like the slow down to speed up, slow down and to speed up, so that you can be consistent on the right thing. So talk to us about that too, that consistency piece. And then I want to ask you a couple things that I've heard people say, this keeps me up at night. So I'm going to get your take on it. But talk to us about consistency, because I think there's a lot of us doing a lot of things consistently, but they're all the wrong things.
Yeah. As far as consistency, our team, we pray for each other in the mornings. I
Mm,
mean, even sending as simple as sending a text, "Hey, I know you got a big meeting coming up, and I'm going to send a prayer for you." also, even at the end of the day, so I work mainly on the strategic part. I have operations people, but at the end of the day, I get an update of everything that happened in the operations, and we do it via phone call, text, in person, whatever works at that time in that moment. But I think that engagement every single day, I don't make them write it down. Otherwise, it'd probably be about 5 page summary report every
Yeah.
single day. And they'd be spending time doing that. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that just knowing, and we always have to leave that conversation at the end of the day on a positive note. We cannot leave it on a
Mm-hmm.
negative note. That's
Mm-hmm.
just one of the ground rules we have. But I
Mm-hmm.
think when you have that deep of a connection with your team and every single day, um, having those daily meetings with your team, and you can do this at any level. You don't have to be at the executive level, manager
Yeah.
level. Having a daily, just everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to tell their story. Everyone wants to tell what they're what they believe and have a sense of purpose for the day, and that's so
Mm-hmm.
critical. So I
Mm-hmm.
think by doing those things on a consistent basis, and I'm still working at it.
Totally.
We have 300 employees. I do not know everybody's name. I tried about this spring. I met with every single department, and just that connection of just getting names. We didn't even talk work. I just wanted people to know that
Mm.
I actually knew their name, and I actually valued who they were and what they were doing here. And I learned, like, from our employees, that we could probably have a zoo. We have probably like over 500 animals, and pets and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, and then, but out of that, again, people, and I even said, I asked the question, tell us something in this room that nobody else knows about you. And just
Mm.
that question was
Mm-hmm.
really eye opening, that people would volunteer
Mm-hmm.
something. It really made them kind of open up. It probably put some people on the spot,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same
Yeah.
time, we have to show that we can trust, or wow, didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you have a passion for that. Because we never talk about that. And think about how many times do you even hear your name at work? I
Yeah.
remember going a whole day and never, hey, you, come over here. Hey, let's talk about this. When you stop and tell and know somebody's name and say hi and use their name, they turn around. They stop. We all do. When you hear your
Yeah.
name called, you stop. And
Yeah.
it just creates again that um, just that personalization that, hey, I care about you because I'm calling you
Yeah.
by your name.
Yeah. People, humanness. Like we do business with humans. We're all here.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes into your whole thing about, people, then process, then tech, like people first. I get, yeah, I love to do this contrast, but the world system is like profits, then maybe people. Like, I don't know, but people are at the bottom, but it's like people above profits. Cause I think if we take care of our relationships, I always say relationships are really the new revenue, because when our relationships are right, like things just begin to flow together. I recently just brought on 5 new clients, and none of that was through chasing or cold calling or any. They were all referrals, and 98% of my business is referrals. And it's just relationship building. It's literally having conversations, checking in, like, how are you doing? Who needs
Yeah.
this right now? It's just, when you take care of the people the right way, the right things come, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. And you kind of jumped right into one of those questions. And I thank you for saying that about consistency, because, again, we go and join a lot of these business masterminds. And I think, when you look at the tactical side of the business, here's all the things you got to be doing. And it's all these numbers and spreadsheets. And yes, you got to know your numbers and all that. But really, this is the stuff that people don't always talk about is, closing the loop at the end of the day. Like, how many open loops, like not knowing, like that creates so much. It sucks up so much bandwidth because your brain is trying to process and figure out what's going on. And now you're trying to anticipate or, you know, fortune tell what's going on in another department or figure that out. And I literally was having that conversation with one of my clients the other day. I was like, just create a system to close the loop at the end of the day that frees you up and gets you guys back on the same page. Because in the absence of communication, negativity fills the void,
Oh, it
right?
does. Absolutely. It
Every
does.
time,
It
and
does.
get to know them. And I was somebody else that I was talking to the other day that was part of an organization, and she's been part of this organization for years, like a major contributor. And the head of the organization, and this woman has been like highly involved, and the head of the organization doesn't even know her name.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I think I'm done, like being on these boards and doing all of this volunteer work for these people that don't even take the time to actually ever ask. I don't think she knows my name. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. So getting to know your people's names, because this is one of the things as we begin to kind of bring this in for a landing is like, One of the questions I've been asking a lot of the guys and women that I work with is, what's keeping you up at night? What's keeping you up at night? And what I hear is, it's really hard right now. Like, attracting the right people is like impossible. It's impossible. It's hard to get good people. It's even harder to keep them. And there may be some truth to that. Okay. Quality people want quality environments. They want to be valued and respected. Just like if you're single and you want to get a great catch of a man or a woman, I'm not going to go hang out somewhere where I'm not treated well and the environment is not conducive to my, health and flourishing. But, how do this thing that keeps them up is, how do I attract the right people? How do I keep the right people? And how do I trust the people? And I think you already answered that really well in that last comment. But I think this is also kind of the lies that we have that become self fulfilling, is like, you can't find good people. People eventually screw you over. You can't trust anyone. And it keeps people in this really destructive place of leadership. Talk about that, because that's one of the things that
Yeah,
I know has been keeping these people up. I see, because I'm always asking, where
sure.
can we support you better? So, what do
Well,
you have to say about that?
I've had to change the way I look, specifically the news. I can't watch, if I watch the news, it takes me down. It takes the
Mhm.
energy, steals the energy out of me because I'm questioning everything. Because I don't even know. Today, our news is so bad. I don't know if it's truth or if it's fiction or if it's made up or
Right.
if it's this agenda. There's too much thinking that goes into it. I won't even. I can't even. I'll look at a headline. I actually stop myself. I'll look at the headline. And I'm like, no, I don't want it. I don't need to waste my time or something like that. You can apply this to social media too. I don't. You can spend hours on social media just looking at all kinds of stuff. And it's a time suck too. So
Mhm.
I only pick those people that I know, and this goes back to the values, the core values. Who online, who has the same core or similar core values? I'm going to follow those people because I know they have a message that's purposeful, or maybe, or even they're going to show some vulnerability or something. Those are the messages I want to spend the time in. I don't need to deal with all the news. And then the other one I would say, especially with family, and this was really hard for me, be in the moment. I have to actually train myself to be in the moment
Yeah.
and be the experience, because I would get so easily distracted by work, by news, by everything. So I have to really prepare my mind, and maybe it's a good workout, maybe it's spending time in quietness, but say, on Friday my family really needs me. I need to really be in that moment. I need to shut
Mm.
down work and I really I put it in as one of the things to do this week, or
Mhm.
something in my journal. I have to work towards that. Some people it's really easy to shut down. Not for me. My brain
You
used to
got to
never shut
train
off.
that.
Mine used to never shut off
Yeah.
24 hours a day,
Yeah.
and it would drive me. And I'd stay up at night.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night? But
Yeah.
now I have to train myself. I try to disconnect. I try to shut down more and more before I fall asleep, because sleep is so
Mhm.
critical too. I didn't realize
Mhm.
that for a long time, but
Mhm.
I think all those things together, being in the moment and really getting away from those things that really take your zap our energy. And it could be a person. I have to really work if there's certain people that just zap your energy. Okay, I'm gonna be prepared, but I'm not gonna go. I'm only gonna go this far. I know I can
Yeah.
just talk about these
Yeah.
things. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just
Yeah.
I know myself. I need to go to stay
Yes.
here.
Yes.
So
I
it's a
love
lot of
that.
work. It is, but it's so well worth it. And you bring your best self. That's the best thing. You bring your best self to those things.
Hmm. It's so true. And I love it. I think there's a lot of distorted ideas around what being a servant leader is and caring for people. We want to carry everyone and save everyone. And I'm like, hello, they already have a savior and it's not you. And love is not always saying yes to everything,
Exactly.
but saying yes to the right things. And I really like what you said. So stop watching the news. I totally agree. Like, be ruthless about what you entertain. We met on social media. So I think that there's a great, and I met some amazing humans through social media. So it can definitely be a powerful place to connect with the right things. And that's kind of my answer too, is if you want to attract and retain the right people, get clear on the values that you stand for and
Yeah.
show up consistently in those values. Become the attractor also, right? Don't be wishy-washy and like, engaging in things, because every time we compromise our values, we kind of wash that out, right? It doesn't really. So, and I love also what you said about we have to prepare ourselves to show up. Like, we have to prepare ourselves to show up for our spouse when we go home, so we don't take all the work in, right? It takes
Hmm.
intentionality to take that few minutes in the car, or that pause to go, okay, I'm going to like mentally put those things in a file and transition or something, and prepare your vessels so that you have the capacity for the day. And I mean, to me, that's a total kingdom principles is, am I rested, prepared, and positioned to do my most meaningful work? And there's a group, I don't know if you've heard of the Benham brothers, but they have a
Hmm.
group called Expert Ownership, and they have a great podcast too, but they talk a lot about authorized work. And that has been a concept that's really resonated with me, that when we feel like we want to do everything and be everything, it's like, God, there's a time and a season for all things, and for all things under the sun, right? But there's only one thing at one time.
Yeah,
And that's the
I like that.
kairos, like those moments of, this is the one thing that we are ordained and called and authorized to actually do and be blessed in this one moment. And maybe it's date night with your wife in this one moment, or this conversation with your daughter in this one moment, or this conversation with your team, or this one client conversation in this one moment. The question is, can we bring all of ourselves to that one moment for the one piece of authorized work? And to me, that's been so freeing, because I'm like, okay, Lord, so you can bless this conversation here as an authorized moment. Like, I'm like, thank you. I pray that many people will be blessed from hearing this conversation. So I just love that concept of authorized work. I've really been leaning into it. Okay. So a couple last things. We're going to wrap up, but I want you to, and I'm not going to get into purpose driven change, but I think right now we're at a time and place where a lot of people are getting squeezed, and we have already given so many gold nuggets, like so much stuff. And I'm seeing a lot of people really having to pivot, reposition themselves, really decide, like, we're kind of in a time and a place where the way we used to do things are not working anymore.
Hmm.
We're being called to lead different. And I'm seeing that, I'm calling it sort of like the grand restructuring in a
Yeah.
way that's happening. I'm seeing it because I'm working with, lots of different leaders in different industries, but it's kind of the same theme. So for someone who knows, they can sort of feel the tides, like something's got to change. I'm sensing God's doing something in me. He's doing something in the industry. He's doing something in my organization. What is the one piece of advice you would give to that leader that can feel the tides are turning? They're so used to doing things a certain way, but that stuff isn't working anymore. And they
Okay.
need to start being purpose driven in their change, but
Yeah.
they don't know where to start.
Okay. I'll give I'll give two things. First, I would say don't, and I did this for many years. Don't live your life like a checkbox. Get over the
Mm,
checkbox mentality. I had the Chamber of Omaha came to us and wanted us to check these 10 boxes to say we are working on diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I said, I won't sign it. No, this is not a checkbox item. This is bigger than a checkbox item. Sure enough, I did not sign it. I got a lot of heat for that, not signing it, and a CEO not doing these things. 2 years later, they have another meeting, and they have a list of all these companies. Hey, we want to go after these companies who said they did this, but they're not doing that. These 10 things. That was eye opening to me. That no, this checkbox stuff, you can do it yourself. It's all about respecting the individual. You can
mm-hmm,
have, if you have strong core values, you don't need this list of 10 things. So
mm-hmm,
that's one. Second, that's been huge for us, and it really it comes back to way back when we started talking here about my mom. So I didn't want my dad to be alone with my when my mom's birthday. So we went to a conference and we went into this coffee shop, and on the chalkboard was this phrase that said, "How can we pray for you?" And I
mm,
thought, wow, that's powerful. I looked at my dad and I said, I think mom's trying to tell us something here. And so if you walk into our main entrance of our building, we have a prayer wall on the side that anybody can write
I
any
love that.
petition, any request. And it's so non invasive, but it shows again the value of you have a place here. If you've got
Mm,
something that's top of mind, or that anybody, clients, employees, guests, you can write it down and know that it'll be prayed for. So those are
mm,
the two things that have really opened my eyes. We can make a difference in a world of
mm,
confusion and cancel culture, all this stuff.
mm,
We just really need to be intentional about it.
mm-hmm. The key takeaway is intention.
Yeah.
People, intention, and stick to
Yeah.
your values. Like, you've got to take the time. And this is awesome timing for us to do this interview, because I did a whole podcast episode on redefining and upgrading our values. Because as we evolve and as we grow spiritually and we mature, our definition of some of these old values will be refined. And so if you guys haven't listened to that podcast, go back. Last week we did one on limiting, like the belief systems that have to be upgraded too, because to be able to eliminate the check boxes, you probably need to address some of your belief systems that are like, oh, I need to do this, and if I don't, then
Mhm.
right, like you've got to get your beliefs in alignment with your values, right? And so I thought this was a such a powerful sort of completion of this little series on
Yeah.
values and beliefs and stuff. So, Brent, I just want to thank you for being here and being in this conversation and doing the work that you do and just being the man that you are.
Oh, this was great, Christine. I mean, we talked about so many subjects in 1 hour. Holy cow! I have to go back and listen to this because I think you covered the book absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of
Yes.
stuff, lot of good conversation. Thank you so much.
Yes, awesome. Well, we'll put the link to the book. It's a quick, easy read. It's very simple. It's digestible, and then just gives you some great questions at the end of every chapter. You know, I'm a big fan of asking the right questions. And yes, Brett, if you ever hang out with me, we just go right into it. We don't hang
No,
out at the surface.
you exactly like your podcast. Yeah, I also throw a shout out to you. You just lay it out there. This is it. This is it. Which I like. I really like that about you. You
I
put
love
it
it.
out
I
there, and
love
it's
it.
great.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. As always, if you enjoy the show, I want you to think about one or two people right now who are on your heart that you need to forward this episode to, who need to hear this. And this is how we spread these messages. So until next time, here's to loving fiercely and leading courageously. So bye for now.